All right, Survivor fans, I am here with Matt Noble, and for the first time, Charles Bright is joining us as well. Charlie, what did you think of last night's episode? Well, first of all, how long has it been since you've seen Survivor?
Oh, it must have been down yonder in 2000, I think. So about 14 years ago.
And
Oh
so,
my.
right, and after such a long break, you come back and watch last night's episode, which I think Matt and I agree was probably the best episode of the season. What did you think? Just overall, you don't really watch a lot of reality shows, but what did you think of this particular one?
I was pleasantly surprised by it. I thought it was actually pretty good. I was invested in what was going on. I felt like I pretty much grasped everything that was going on, and I was having a lot of fun. Seeing the backstabbing scheming that was going on. I loved it.
Hmm.
Mm.
That's one of
That's
the best.
interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's interesting, Charles, that you got a good grasp of it, because that seems more than most of the players on the show, who seem completely confused as to everything that was going on.
Yeah, they were definitely all over the place on that.
Yeah.
Who are your favorites? Because there's what eight people left.
Yeah.
Who are you rooting for?
I was rooting for. I like Reed. I like Reed a lot. I think he's pretty cool. I think he seems like a pretty competent, pretty well organized person. I also kind of like John, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know what all the anger is towards John. I guess it's because I haven't seen the other episodes. But I kind of like him. I think he's all right.
It's because he's so dominant, don't you agree, Matt? Because every week it comes down to him being the tiebreaker vote. People are always going to John. Will you vote with our side? Same with the other side. They're going to him. Will you vote, with our side? So he's always this tiebreaker, him and his girlfriend Jacqueline. And I think that's why people are kind of getting sick of him.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. He hasn't been clear enough with people. So, he told a whole group of them that he'd vote with them, then he voted with the other group, so they were upset with him. And the group he ended up voting with, I guess, they like him. They don't hate him. But I guess they know he was the one that could have gone with the other group. So I think it's just more a trust issue than this guy's a jerk.
And we had not one but two hidden immunity idols. The last time I remember two, being played at Tribal Council was back in Heroes vs. Villains. Is that right? Has it really been that long?
No. There was in Fans vs. Favorites 2, Malcolm and the Three Amigos played their two idols
Your knowledge is incredible.
when they forced Philip out.
Gotcha. So, and we were talking beforehand, what would have happened if 5 votes had gone to John, 4 votes had gone to Keith, and they both played their idols? You think that maybe they would have had a re-vote, right?
I guess so. I think with production they need to get someone out. Like, if they don't get someone out that night, then they've got to change their whole schedule for, do we do Final 2, do we do Final 3, do we have a double elimination next week and things. So I think they probably would have had to do a re-vote and not vote for people who played the idols. But we've never seen that before in Survivor. There's always been someone with a vote and not an idol.
Mm-hmm. And so, Natalie talked a lot about in this episode about wanting to get John out, but it was her at the end that whispered to him, you should play your idol. Why did she do that? If she wants him out, why did she say that?
I think if Natalie wants John out, but she needs him out on her terms, because she'll then lose control of the game. Yes, yeah, she wants John out. She doesn't want to go to the end with John. She thinks, whatever her problem is with John. But if he gets voted out that night, that means she's just lost the vote. It means the other team might have an idol of their own. You've got to be in control. You want to be in control on Survivor. And, John needs to go out when she needs John out, not when Reed needs John out. Because then Reed all of a sudden has a whole lot of power in the game moving forward. So I think that's why she wanted to save John then, because it wasn't it means she would have lost control of the game. And I think that was a tribal council where everyone felt like they've lost control, and it was about getting that control back. And now John's going to be in huge debt to Natalie.
Right. Yeah, I can't wait to see what happens when they go back to camp.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
what about the immunity challenge? It was one of my favorites of the year. I always love when they do, stand on a log or hold your hand on something, and then Jeff brings out the food. And John was the first one off of the ledge after 7 minutes. He couldn't have lasted longer than that. This makes you a threat, right? Why would you want to leave a challenge after 7 minutes?
Yeah, I guess he knew he couldn't win it. But yeah, I think it didn't look good.
Right.
Yeah, it was like almost no effort on his part. He just went for, basically like for just candy that he left for.
Mm-hmm. My favorite part was when they were all kind of sitting there next to Jeff, and Wes mentioned the episode of 2.5 Men that Jeff had been on. They usually don't show us these intimate moments, but I guess they decided to. It was really funny, actually. I love it they show that part.
Yeah.
It seemed to be like Jeff didn't want to talk about that at all, like being on 2.5 Men is part of his CBS career that he'd rather forget. And he's just like, I'm not going to talk about that. And then Wes said, I love that show.
Right.
Yeah. I love those like Wes is sort of like, hey, you remember when you were on that 2.5 Men? Just like, yes. Yeah, I remember. I was there. I don't not remember doing that.
He's not Charlie Sheen. He hasn't ingested that many drugs so that he would forget it.
Yeah. But that was funny. CBS would have loved that though. The cross, right. The plug for 2.5 Men.
Right. Wes also mentioned he was in that chicken nugget eating contest. This was a big episode for Wes. We got to know a lot about this guy before his final, vote off.
Yeah, he won a chicken nugget eating contest. Although he went to Exile Island and we did not see a second. I'm not sure this is the first time anyone's been sent to Exile Island and we haven't seen them there, which was fine. That would have been waste of time. Like the producers and editors made the right decision there.
I wanted to see it still. I wanted to see him sleeping there with the crabs. Charlie, like as a new viewer, you probably don't even know, but like Wes went to this thing called Exile Island where he had to be there for, I think it's 2 nights. He has to be all alone, no one else to talk to, just him on an island. We usually see the person on Exile Island, but for some reason they did not show us that. So did you even understand, like, were you confused at all about what was going on?
I wasn't confused by it, but I was wondering, is it normal not to see them on Exile Island? Because they actually send them to exile where they don't even have camera people following, so he is actually completely isolated.
Oh,
no, that would be. Yeah, but no, I think I'll tell you why we didn't see any of him. There was nothing interesting. There was nothing. He's so boring. He probably just would have talked about food half the time, and there was a whole bunch of interesting stuff happening back at camp. I think that's it.
Natalie finding the idol.
Yeah, like Natalie finding the idol. That was pretty interesting. An idol that, I guess I sort of had remembered, when John Rocker got voted out, that his idol would have got re-hidden, and that, Baylor then got a clue with Natalie, the next week for an idol. And I remember then, the merge was soon after that, or the swap was soon after that, or maybe the swap had just happened. I was trying to keep a track of, what beach would John Rocker have been on? And, where are they now? But, it's sort of, it'd been so long, and there'd been a merge since then that I sort of hadn't had in my mind that there's still an idol at one of the beaches. I didn't even know if they were at that same beach, to be honest. So,
that
was pretty interesting.
I'm glad they showed us in the previously on Survivor part, because otherwise I would have totally forgot that. But that was the time when Baylor volunteered to go. No. When Natalie volunteered to go to exile to be with Baylor, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was quite a long time ago.
Yeah. So now Natalie has an idol. With the other two being played, she's now the only player with an idol in the game.
Right.
Natalie's looking really good. She was able to read that John should play as idol. She was able to find her own idol. Seems like she's got a good relationship with Baylor. Like, you know, she didn't like cut herself off from that group like last week with the Jeremy vote. She seems well ingrained with that group. She just brought a lot of goodwill with John and Jacqueline. So she's looking really strong at the moment, Natalie. And I can see her getting taken to the end, and I can see her winning with the jury.
Yeah, she's actually in third place now, according to her odds. She's tied with Baylor. They both have 15-2 odds of winning. Second place is Reed, and people think John is going to win Survivor. So I guess people kind of agree with you that Natalie, I don't think Natalie's been up this high before. Of course, now with Jeremy and Josh both out of it, you know, people have to take their spots on the charts. Jeremy and Josh were always like people's favorites to win, and now they're both gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Charles, did you think anyone's in a good spot to win it from here after seeing the vote? I know you do a bit of political work in your spare time, Charlie. Who do you think's got the political capital to take it all away?
Well, I gotta say, I'm approaching this whole Natalie thing in a whole new light, in that she does have quite a bit of resources to her disposal when it comes to this. So I would definitely put her. I think those top three are pretty accurate. You know, John, Reed, and Natalie as the ones to be watching for to win. But then you also will be having, you know, people scheming to try to get them out of there. So it'll be interesting to see if there is any type of to see if anybody tries to put together a coalition, very much like what Reed did trying to get John out this week.
This was an amazing plan by Reed. You know, like this, if this had been pulled off, this would have been a great Survivor move. Like to get an alliance, you're not really even in to split their votes, and then get a counter alliance to then blindside one of those people. Like, the amount of balls you need in the air to pull that off is unbelievable.
Right. It would have worked if not for Natalie's telling John to play his idol. It would have gone out without.
And Keith, and good old friend Keith, when Reed's saying, I think we should really be worried about Wes and Keith tonight, guys. And Keith goes, let's stick with the plan, Reed.
Right. Are you surprised? You're not surprised by that.
No, I'm not. I knew with this idol that Keith was gonna blow it. It's sort of like a sitcom, this Keith guy, and you sort of like, oh, he's got the idol, things are looking good, and you know that like something's gonna happen that's gonna completely mean he plays his idol in the most humorous fashion, and like what we end up with is him like blowing his alliance's spot in tribal council so that he has to play his idol, and then he plays the idol in a way that his son ended up getting voted out.
Mm-hmm. But he did offer it to Wes. There was that moment he's like, do you want it? And Wes is like, no, which is a big change of pace because 3 weeks ago Keith forgot it was his son's birthday. So now maybe this is his way of apologizing for forgetting his son's birthday by offering him the idol.
I think at the end of the day, like, Keith loves his son and like wants to like, you know, like look out, like that paternal like thing of wanting to look out for his son and going, hey man, like you play this, like this is mine, but I'm gonna give it to you. And but Wes was like, no, you found it, you play it, Dad. And boy, it ended up sending Wes with 2 votes home. I remember at the beginning of the season they did this teaser on sort of all these like quotes that people were going to say later in the game. And there was one where like one of the, you know, and there was a lot of like Jeff going, you're going to quit the game and stuff. And we're like, oh, who's going to quit? One of the other ones was like Keith going, I've done the worst thing in Survivor history. And I was going, really? I wonder what that's going to be. Yeah. I wonder what that's going to be. And I feel like we're going to get that next week, very early in the episode with like, I got my son out of the game. I voted my son out of the game by playing the idol. I've done the worst thing in Survivor history. Like, I think that's the bad thing Keith did. And we haven't anyone vote out their loved one yet this season. But like, in one sense, Keith sent his son home.
Kind of, yeah.
he didn't know where the votes were. He had enough information if he was clever to know that that's what would happen, and maybe he did, which is why he tried to give his son the idol, but he pretty much played his son out of the game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like his little comment where he said, "Stick to the plan." You do a better Southern accent than I do, but that changed everything. You could see at tribal council when they're all like whispering. We don't see that a lot. Usually, people know what they're gonna do before they get there. This was one of those moments where things could have changed, and I just loved watching Jeff watch the tribal. He's just sitting there with big eyes. It was great.
Yeah, these are my favorite tribals, Charlie, and they don't happen very often, less than once a year, or once a season, where you have something happen, which means they need to go into side conversations, but they're like side conversations that other people can hear. You can't take them off to the other end of the beach or whatever. So you've got all this little politicking going in a very time-constrained environment and a non-private environment.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that. Like, that's just so, like, riveting to me to see this happen. Because usually people go, they know who they're going to vote for, they know what the plan is, and maybe something happens at tribal where they have to, switch their vote, like, or you've got a swing vote. Goes, I'm going to tonight, I don't know if I'm going to vote with these guys or these guys, I'll make my mind up on the night. But where does everyone gets thrown into confusion, and you've got all these idols in play and all these side conversations. It's really exciting.
What did you guys think of the reward challenge when Reed gave up his reward to Missy?
I thought that was very strategic of him because it wasn't like trying to convey some sort of false generosity or get it. It was to he had a plan and he was going to execute it. And if giving up helping out impoverished children somewhere on the island was part of that plan, then so be it.
Yeah, and I think, thinking about, last week we saw Jeremy give up his reward and then he got voted out, and you can see a direct link as to how that decision led to him getting voted out. He voted, Jeremy did this, and it meant it cut him off from the rest of the tribe, and it gave them time to politic without him, yada, yada, yada. Whereas, with this situation with Reed, his alliance didn't lose because he gave up his reward. It's because Keith opened his mouth at tribal. It actually did put Reed in a good position to get those votes where he wanted them. And the votes were where Reed wanted them until tribal. Now, Reed obviously could have managed his alliance better. I always think, obviously Natalie reacted well to the news that happened and was able to counter Reed well. So I'm not saying Reed, it was completely out of his control, but it wasn't because he gave up his reward that he lost out. So,
right, you're only as good as your dumbest tribe member.
And that's what I always thought could cost Boston Rob the game, because I was going, well, it seems smart to be keeping Philip along, but if Philip ever blows up his spot, that's Boston Rob's fault for keeping Philip in the game. If you have people that can't keep their mouth shut or aren't smart in your alliance, that is partly your fault. That's partly, where you are. Then again, Reed was in a tough spot, so, or was he? He was able to get the other alliance to split their votes for Wes and Keith, so seems like he has some sway.
I wonder how much the immunity helped Reed, because I could have seen him go home this week.
Yeah, Natalie wanted him. That's when Natalie wanted the votes.
Right, he is by far the smartest person playing the game. Now that Josh and Jeremy are gone, Reed is easily the biggest mental threat. And Natalie saw that. Natalie saw that. So, you think the immunity saved him? Would he have gone home this week?
Good chance. It depends whether Natalie could have got the numbers where she wanted them. I think Baylor was sort of in with Natalie, but I think Missy could have swayed Baylor. So it would have been probably up to Natalie, Baylor, and Missy. If those three could have all agreed on Reed, they probably could have got another couple along. John and Jacqueline probably would have followed them then. But I think it would have come down to... Yeah. I think it would have come down to Missy.
I totally forgot about Jacqueline.
Yeah, she's still there. I think Jacqueline's got a good chance of winning still. I think she's looking all right. especially if John gets taken out as a threat, and then she's left there to sort of pick up the pieces.
So there's only 2 duos left. You have John and Jacqueline, and you have Baylor and Missy. So Natalie all of a sudden becomes, if this is the final 5, Natalie becomes a swing vote. So if Natalie were to choose between the 2, she would go with Baylor and Missy, right? So
yeah.
So if this is the final 5, which I assume it is, then that could be our final 3: Natalie, Baylor, and Missy. It could be an all-female final 3 this year.
Yeah. And Natalie wins.
Oh, you think so?
I would think so. Depends what happens. Like, depends what people do from here on in. But like, I'd say in that final 3, Natalie's looking very good.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
So, Charlie, any final thoughts on this episode or Survivor in general? Jeff Probst, how was he as a host?
Oh, Jeff was great. Jeff was wonderful. I'm just waiting for next week, 2 hours, which will be fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be 2 episodes back to back. So 2 people are going home. There's gonna be 2 immunity challenges, 2 reward challenges.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, things look bad for Reed, Alec, and Keith. They're the 3. Like, we could see 2 boring episodes where just 2 of those get picked off. Mm-hmm. This season, the last 3 weeks has shown that anything can happen, though, in this season with these people. But that sort of looking like, and I guess, like, will Natalie make the move against John in those 2 episodes could be the big question.
Can't wait. I think that's a good spot to end it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Everyone should go to Gold Derby and make their predictions for Survivor and for all the other shows, all the other award shows that we're doing. It's going to be a good final few episodes.
Yep.